been a big year for Inventa companies, of course. Vizsla Silver really advanced the projects. We brought on Simon Smirlek, which was a giant win, someone who could build the mine. Vizsla Copper, we've had an interesting year. Of course, we acquired the Poplar project for the princely sum of $2.7 million in stock. Very excited about that because that gave us 2 billion pounds of copper and 750,000 ounces of gold in resource for very low capital input. Some outstanding targets emerging there. I think we've had probably our biggest drill campaign in Vizsla Copper's short history. We hit multiple intercepts of about 100 metres at 1 to 1.2% copper equivalent, so that's shaping up very well for that high-grade core at Deerhorn. We've got some outstanding targets that have emerged there, both at Poplar South, our Great Plains target at Woodjam, and then lastly, the thing that's getting really interesting for us is our Copper View project, which is just immediately to the north of Kodiak's Gate Zone, which I think is a very strong chance of exceptional target and a good chance of a discovery there when we hit the ground come spring, summer next year. So we're excited about all of that.
And of course, outside of Vizsla Silver, launching Vizsla Royalties, that was a huge win for us. But, other portfolio companies like Cosa, recently announcing some game-changing news around their involvement with Denison, purchasing some projects that you'd be very familiar with, I'm sure, just off of the Hurricane deposit.
That's exactly right. So that's Steve Blower, Keith Bodnarchuk, ex-Denison guys. Pretty tough to get a deal done with Denison. I think they've done something extraordinary there. That Murphy Lake project sits right to the south of where we discovered our Hurricane deposit for ISO Energy when I ran that, and Steve and Keith were heavily involved there. That's the highest grade deposit in the Athabasca Basin, pretty much globally. There's 50 million tonnes there at about 35% uranium. There's more conductive trend on that Murphy Lake project. So that was just announced today, of course, an extraordinary deal. I think the team's done a fantastic job of getting that on board, and I think we're a very good, there's enough smoke there to suggest that we've got an outstanding set of drill targets coming up when I think that the fellas there are looking at drilling Q2 next year, so I'm excited for that.
And of course, Targa has had an interesting year. We've basically done some very early grassroots exploration that's returned some very interesting results towards the end of this year here. So, 2025 looks interesting for Targa as well. That's in, as you like to say, deep bargain territory at I think 3.5 pennies right now.
It is.
But I think from the Vizsla Silver perspective, raising well over $100 million this last year has put us in an excellent position. We really performed on the PEA, certainly an industry-leading PEA. It's the best silver development project out there. We're ending the year with over $100 million US in the bank. That covers our entire work program, the test mine, the feasibility study, our exploration drilling that we're doing this year, well into basically a construction decision next year. So very exciting for Vizsla Silver. It's in the best position that it's ever been in right now, heading into the end of this year. And 2025 is going to be absolutely transformational. At the same time, Vizsla Royalty successfully spun that out, and anything that's good for Vizsla Silver is certainly good for Vizsla Royalty, but there's a few different ways to play this this increasingly important Panuco district now.
Well, Vizsla Royalty, I think you've only got to look at Great Bear and then Great Bear Royalty, of course, to see what these things can be worth. So extraordinary bargain, but it's gone very well, of course. I think that the big thing that you've done there with Vizsla Silver is really building up that team so that you're in a position to build the world's best silver mine. That's what's impressed me. It's been sort of very much a transformational year for the company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we're better situated than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're excited about every project in the portfolio, in our Inventa portfolio, in different ways. They all have different risk-reward profiles, in different commodities. Of course, we love all these commodities. It's the reason that we've created Inventa, was to give people exposure two of the commodities that we thought had the most upside. And if you look at, certainly copper, in Visa Copper's instance, silver, I think, I'm personally quite bullish on silver, but, you could say, you can make similar comments around uranium, and of course, gold exploration, with Targa. Each of these have different upside profiles based on the stage of development that they're in, and really the stage of the cycle that the commodity market that they're specifically in. So with Vizsla, this is going to be the most exciting year yet, 2025. We're starting the test mine at the end of this year, which we're funded for. We're really going to get underground. It's certainly the most advanced in terms of the development cycle in any of our portfolio companies. We're 2.5 years, potentially 3 years away from production, which is incredible, and it'll be a top 5 silver producer globally, which is phenomenal, spectacular.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I think it's hard to put your finger on one particular name because we've got such great companies everywhere. I think our mix of metals there in the fact that we've got a lot of silver, a lot of copper, and now uranium exploration. Of course, there's always, as you say, a place for gold, but I think silver and copper over the next couple of years, my bold prediction is that they will be the metals that outperform. They're so, of course, silver has the advantage that it is a commodity, a currency, and a store of value like gold, but that commodity aspect of it, the uses for silver at the moment, the increase in photovoltaics use, and of course it's a market that's in fundamental undersupply at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if you wake up one day late next year and silver's $100 an ounce. So that's a great thing. Copper, of course, my views are fairly widely known that I think we'll see $20 or $30 per pound copper in the not too distant future. So you want to have as much of that as you can, and of course we've got that in Vizsla Copper. We've got about 4 billion pounds in resources, nearly 2 million ounces, growing that resource base all the time. So we've got a lot of exposure for our shareholders to the copper market and the copper space. I love that. And then uranium. Well, who knows? Who knows? I think we could see very, very high uranium prices as people start to roll out SMRs, particularly in the US around data centres. So there's a lot to be excited about. I think this is sort of the current bullish market that we're in at the moment is the start. We're in the foothills of what will be probably the biggest resources boom of all time. So we're, good time to start buying stock in the tax loss selling that's happening right now.
That's right. Looking forward to 2025, I think there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of opportunities. We're in a new administration with Trump, and a lot of what we thought, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and these types of things are going to be materially affected by Trump's administration. And of course, that'll have global ramifications. So I don't think we really know exactly where things are going to land just yet. I would have been great to have company treasuries in Bitcoin, prior to that, to that election, but we didn't necessarily see that coming. Of course, that's a joke. We wouldn't do that, but so I think that remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: we are in a structural deficit, as you talked about earlier, for silver. Silver price doesn't need any government or any type of external force to send that price higher. We just simply don't make enough silver. So I think silver price goes much higher. It certainly doesn't have to for Vizsla Silver to be very successful. We just need silver prices slightly over $10 to make a profit in the long run. So it kind of depends on a commodity by commodity case, but I do think that just despite metal prices where they may go or may not go, discovery and meaningful development of projects always creates a difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I think that as I say, just the things that we've looked at seriously, corporate development in copper, for example, we've kicked the tyres in the last 5 years on probably 400 or 500 different opportunities. And I suppose the striking thing is the dearth of good projects out there, quality projects. So, you know, whilst there's a little bit of sort of slack in the copper market, you know, a little bit of production can come on stream. The demand profile, I see by, you know, BHP put out a report last week saying that demand by 2050 will increase by 70%. I think they're saying sort of we'll need another 7 million tonnes by the back end of this decade. It's impossible to see where that will come from. It's just not there. So I think we're going to see very, very strong copper prices. As you mentioned, the silver market's in deficit. And of course, you know, if you look to the uranium market, gee, when we started NextGen and ISO Energy, the uranium price was sort of $14 to $20 a pound. You get a slight tight market, and all of a sudden, you know, it winds up, builds up, and then the metal price goes up 5 times in a 6-month period. We could see that, probably will see that, particularly for silver in the not too distant future, and then copper over the next couple of years. So I'm excited for the market. And if you look, you know, the mid-tier guys like Vizsla Silver and developers have doubled in share price in the last 6 months. Hasn't flowed down to the junior market just yet, but I think that we'll see that this year. So it's about time to start looking at investing in the junior space. I know personally I've been writing very big checks for a few different things in copper and silver, and buying a heck of a lot of Vizsla royalty as well, because I think that's free money.
Well, and the interesting thing, of course, that we've seen in 2024 now, that I think is going to continue probably at a higher intensity going into 2025, is M&A. We saw in Mexico the top 2 single asset producers, Silvercrest and Gatos, recently announced to be acquired. You know, that hasn't closed yet, but we saw a lot of movement in the silver space in Mexico, I think indicating that green light is on for Mexico. Yep. But I suspect that we're going to see a lot of single asset gold producers end up being acquired, going and development assets as we go into 2025, and I think that's going to trickle through the entire commodity stack and different sub-industries as well.
Yeah, that's important. I think it's becoming, you know, those sort of Vizsla Silver, Skeena, single asset, serious producers, they're just being gobbled up at a rate of knots. I don't think that's been factored into many companies' share prices just yet, but that just builds up over time, of course. So you sort of leading indicator of a major boom.
One last bold prediction. We've been talking about this a little bit on the Vizsla Silver front, but I spent some time with the government of Mexico a few weeks ago, and I think that we're going to start to see permits being issued, and as soon as that happens, I think there's going to be a huge amount of capital pouring into first of all, of course, the premier names in developers like Vizsla Silver, but really into the Mexican metal space as well. So I am, you know, overly bullish on Mexican equities in the silver space.
Mexico's open for business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for watching our update for 2024. I want to thank our shareholders very much for support.
Fantastic, mate, and thank you for the support during what has been a transformational year for some of our companies, and I mean, we're about to, you know, we're at the very pointy end of what will be the greatest bull market in resources ever. We've got a lot of exciting things. We've got brilliant people running our companies. So keep an eye out. Now's a good time to sharpen your pencil and start looking at buying some stock.